Betsy Ann Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media, and we got to talk really fast because we have so much to tell you because we haven't talked in a couple of days. Okay, you ready to go, Thomas?
Tweet.
Okay, now look, before we get started on the Trump tweets, the Kavanaugh hearings are going on right now. Folks are heckling him and the process and the whole bit. Now, frankly, I don't really care for Kavanaugh. I mean, because he's senior executive service, I think he could just swing both ways. I'm very disturbed about the memo he wrote with the Ken Starr investigation showing that a president can be impeached by, lying. We'll leave it to these Democrats to show after the midterms that Trump was somehow lying, and then you've got Kavanaugh up there as a swing vote. I do not trust the guy. I don't like the heckling that's going on, but, I'm not so upset about this. So tell us what's really going on with Kavanaugh.
Well, first off, the display of mob rule by the fascist left was nice, to see Kamala out there trying to outdo Cory Booker for once, and just being as rude as you can be, not following parliamentary procedure. They weren't even in an open meeting. It shows that when you get the Democrats riled, they basically become a riot, a mob scene. They become fascists, really, and then they just try to control by force, aggression, and power. But what is really happening there, we want to clearly remind you that we believe that Trump doesn't care a lick about Kavanaugh. I mean, he does. He was a suggestion. It's not Trump's best or favorite suggestion. He put Kavanaugh out there so that the Republicans and the Democrats could be revealed for who they are. Kavanaugh swings both ways, as Betsy said. He was simply a politically bought, what do you call it, fake justice. I mean, that's what he is. He's a fake justice person, and he's bought and paid for, and he swings both ways in that he goes both Democratic and Republican, and the nonsense that he wrote to support the Ken Starr investigation for the parameters of impeachment are now being used by Al Green and everyone else calling for impeachment, saying we do not need a crime to impeach the president. Right, and we don't need a special investigation to have a crime to go after Trump either. You see how they break the rules? It's just it's beautiful. But what's happening in the Kavanaugh thing is we believe that he might not be, in the end, approved. And what we will see in between is the dirt from both sides. And so Trump knows that he doesn't have the votes. So he knows that it's basically a circus. And he created this circus, again, to make sure that people see who's on whose side and who is who in the big picture. And that's what we're seeing. The people who are coming out against him, for instance, say they didn't get the paperwork. Well, they hired 50 Department of Justice lawyers to go get the paperwork. The only stuff they couldn't get, because they got more paperwork than ever before in any hearing for a Supreme Court justice, they couldn't get the Obama era, last 8 years, because Obama took his records, as we told you, and put them into obscurity in his fake presidential library and the fake foundations that are now connected to it. Basically the same thing that the Clintons did. And as you remember, the Clinton library, that is where Bill Clinton was up in the upper room. Literally, he lived at his library, and that's where he would do his rendezvous with women. That's the Obama in Chicago. It was the
massage parlor presidential library, right?
Precisely.
Okay, well, let's get started with the tweets. We just came off a Labor Day weekend, so that is acknowledged in the first tweet, and it's followed by the second one. Richard Trumka, the head of the AFL-CIO, represented his union poorly on television this weekend. Some of the things he said were so against the working men and women of our country and the success of the U.S. itself that it is easy to see why unions are doing so poorly. Adem, can you speak to both of those tweets?
Yes, Labor Day. So that makes me think of what I saw on television, which was, in fact, celebrating a staged death, because he was already dead for some time. They only pulled the plug on him once he got past the deadline, so that now the governor can appoint a dog to replace him.
No,
but it will be a McCain dog.
No, by the way, that replacement announcement has just been made. We can talk about it in a subsequent tweet.
Oh, good.
Okay. It's not Cindy McCain, thank goodness. But let's keep going.
Oh, that's good. It won't matter. It's going to be a McCain stooge, because what is McCain? He's the resistance movement in the Senate. He's the head of the deep state in politics. He is the head of the military-industrial complex, political machinery, and lobbying in D.C., for not just the Senate, but also for the Congress. And remember, when he ran for president, he demanded that the Russians give him $1 million in 2 separate letters. So as I see them all sitting there at this funeral, which we're pretty sure that he was on ice, and they just timed it so it would be just right, so everybody would be able to be distracted by the funeral palooza, Wallapalooza that is going on. And who do they invite? The biggest murderers that we have in America.
In the world. I mean, when you're looking at Henry Kissinger out there, and there's Huma Abedin and all these people, you're really talking about all the criminals getting together to bury one of their own.
It's the Warhawk Party putting their Viking warrior on a ship and sending it out in a blaze. Why? Because if John McCain doesn't go down, nobody goes down. And that's the way it is. And that's why Jeff Sessions says, I'm not going to even look at taking Hillary Clinton down. That's the reason it was never even considered. Her espionage, which has now been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt in 100 different ways, Comey never even opened an investigation that she was named in. So the midterm exam investigation was a complete scam. So those people are sitting there. And what do? On Labor Day, those are the people who don't labor. Those are the career politicians. And all they do is sit around and figure out ways to get money for either their next campaign and or to get a position higher in a committee, so they have insider trading. In a minute, we're going to talk about what Jeff Sessions, a guy who literally, these people don't even have jobs. Probably, if we looked into the statistics, just look at it. The career politicians didn't do anything before they became a career politician. That's all they've ever done.
Many of them are former lawyers, and lawyers don't create anything except for a mess.
And they're asked to run the country when they haven't even run a successful business. This is completely, it's absurd. It's for self-enrichment. And without term limits, that's what you get. You get a mob, basically a cabal, basically a mafia of political oligarchs and political power brokers meeting where 2 presidents who are supposed to be opposed and the 2 opposed parties are agreeing that John McCain was their man. He was. Because those people aren't Republican or Democratic. Did you notice both sides of the aisle were there? That's called the Globalist Party. Okay, and it used to be ran strictly out of the Council on Foreign Relations, and that's what created our war policy. And Henry Kissinger has, until he went totally Chinese, and now he went Chinese or bust, and he's bust. They called him a murderer when he delivered the eulogy. People turned against someone that they really liked in the past, like President Bush or Obama, for what they said to support John McCain. Because why? John McCain is noted for the treasonous, cheating manipulator who put up the money through the McCain Institute for the Russian dossier. At least he purchased a copy of it through David Kramer, who McCain says he has nothing to do with the McCain Institute. And then after he did that, the McCain Institute became another political opposition group. As we see, Trump is being attacked by the anti-Trump, never-Trumper McCain and the McCain Institute with the dossier and with another $10 million from foreign. All the money in that institute that I know of has come from foreign interest. And John McCain says he's not connected to it. But then John McCain controls David Kramer and everything David Kramer does. He's his step and fetch it boy. We know that because McCain is the one who gave the names of the Russians. Not only Oleg Deripaska. And I love the way the mainstream media twist that now. They say, they're flipping Putin favorites. No. John McCain was on both sides of anybody in Russia because he was getting payoffs. He met with more Russians. I'm not even going to go down the list, but Oleg Deripaska, he was just seen on a boat with him right before Oleg went to meet with Eric Prince. Eric Prince was called before the Robert Mueller investigation and reamed out. Was John McCain for a meeting with Oleg Deripaska. And Oleg Deripaska, they won't bring before Robert Mueller's fake investigation. Why? Because he has all the dirt to reveal the way that it's fake, the way they went to him to begin with, because he was already a CIA asset in Iran, put up $25 million. Oleg Deripaska is the richest oligarch in Russia. He owns the aluminum. He is a good friend of Putin. He hates Bill Browder. And in that room, you basically got to see the real politics of what is going down and where the real money has taxes put on it, toll gates, toll booths. And the people sitting there, those are the ones who are doing the tolling.
Well, that's a lot about McCain. What do you have to say about the AFL-CIO?
All unions are corrupt. Name me a union that didn't steal the retirement fund. The great crisis in our age in relationship to workers is the crisis in unions and the fact that they stole all the money, they misappropriated it, they misspent it, they miscalculated, and because the economy stalled throughout the last, who knows how long we can say, it stalled, and so their investments all died, and so they lost the ability for unions to have any real ability to help their workers. They collect from them, but they don't do anything for them because it's political brokerage that causes their collective bargaining deals. So unions, no. They are absolute corrupt cabals. There's no freedom in a union. They're not looking after the workers. And now that Trump has put money in the pocket of the workers know they don't need unions. Trump did more for them in less than a year than any union has ever done for them in the last 10 years. And of course, I'll repeat it, they steal retirement funds. Why would we be listening to anyone from a union? Now that we have a choice in many unions because of what Trump has done, that you can choose not to be part of the collective bargaining, you can choose not even be part of the union and still work there, and then there cannot be discrimination against you, which there has been since the inception of unions. That's what he's talking about.
Our next tweet is a retweet from Sarah Sanders, who tweeted, "Our economy is booming. Millions are working again, and our country is back on track thanks to President Donald Trump's policies." And then followed by another retweet similarly. In July, President Trump announced the pledge to America's workers. In little more than a month since, millions of new opportunities have been created for our workforce.
Sarah Sanders, well, yes, I think of we the people, and that's what she's talking about, the workers, the real people who do things, and what you and Mr. McKibben always talk about as being entrepreneurs and inventors, and, that's the creativity. That's what we should be celebrating. But what are we celebrating?
Well, we can't really, because innovators today have to worry because you've got a very corrupt U.S. patent office that's run by Serco that steals the patents of good, hardworking American entrepreneurs, uses it for the deep state, and then the people never get paid. So again, I keep reminding people, until we clear up the U.S. patent office, keep your innovations, creations, and patents locked up.
Absolutely, and basically that's what I was going to say. We the people is against they, the corrupt system, and that's the way that it is. John McCain, that was they, the corrupt system. We the people, we were taking a Monday off and doing a barbecue and taking a breath because we got to go back to our, very difficult work day in, day out.
Are you kidding? We're retired.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, because lately we've been working harder than we ever did in our regular jobs.
Yeah, what I'm looking forward to is the retirement from my retirement. Now, I just want to point this out. We need to make America ours again. Take it away from these people at the McCain funeral and make it America's. We the people's again. Not those people. Those are globalists. We need to follow nationalism, and you see that nationalism in Sweden, the only socialist country in the world that has been destroyed by their socialism, is now gone far right, and populism. And what we need, it's just very simple, to say no to Obama lawlessness that was in every federal agency, where anyone you talk to, for instance, the IG, Inspector General audits of all the different agencies that was ordered, as we told you, from the U.S. Treasury is where Trump is working. $700 million just in this recent report that they found corruption. So many indictments. If y'all want to know who those indictments were for, that's who they were for. Just look at the report. Hundreds and thousands of indictments. $714 million recouped. That's not how much was stolen, okay? We're talking about institutionalized theft under Obama. He brought it in, and he was there to grab it all. Look at what he's doing with his own library. And look at what he did. Look at what Obama did. In foreign policy, when Iran screamed, "We're going to blow you up," what happened? Kerry went over, under Obama and Hillary's direction, and Hillary too, made a deal with Iran, brought in 2,500 spies, paid off everybody involved, and what did they get? Pallets of cash. And nobody knows how many billions of dollars. That was an agreement the president made with them, President Obama. Nobody even knows how much. That's the kind of work that people like Obama, who you can't show any work he ever did.
Well, joke's going to be on them when the Federal Reserve note crashes, and that's not even good enough for toilet paper, all those pallets of cash.
That's absolutely true. And Trump can do that in a minute. He's already warned them twice. Notice that they backed off. They did not raise rates. I told y'all. I told you he's in a battle openly through the U.S. Treasury and the Exchange Stabilization Fund, which controls the world's currency and our stock markets, specifically the stock markets through the Plunge Protection Team, which has other names, but he's rearranging all the chairs at that board. In essence, when he goes after the U.S. Fed, you won't even see he's going after the U.S. Fed. He will simply freeze their assets, say what they did was illegal with the stock market, bring the stock market back to a new adjustment, and kick out Intercontinental Exchange that runs it because they're crooked. Do not do high-frequency trading. Don't get me started on this. That used to be what we were preaching about all the time because it was coming to a crash. But Trump came in and he stopped the crash. Trump came in and, hey, guess what? Climate change stopped. Global warming stopped. Refugees that could be vetted stopped. The Pope is going broke. How we have more people jumping out of the Senate and the House than in probably U.S. political history because they're corrupt and they don't want to get caught. Because why? New sheriffs in town. Sorry, lawlessness is over.
Hey, I liked the next tweet it was a retweet from Ivanka Trump. She tweeted today on Labor Day, let's also recognize the amazing stay-at-home parents across America who seldom receive the credit they deserve for the invaluable work that they do as they nurture and raise the next generation of American workers. Thank you. And this is very important, Thomas, because as you see in Europe, the idea of family has been so torn apart, and women staying at home and having children or even educating their children at home has been so disruptive that they've lost their workforce. And now you have this Muslim, not immigration, let's call it invasion, and they are just going to be wiped out as a population because the Muslims do reproduce and the European whites don't. So we're facing that in the United States if we don't put some premium on motherhood, staying at home, fatherhood, staying at home, and the family values that we once held at esteem. If we don't, we simply won't have the workers we need to keep our economy running.
Simply the homeschooling going on, which is increasing at a rate that no one can keep track of. That's because the FBI and the Department of Justice has allowed shootings in schools. Matter of fact, if you've probably noticed, most of the shootings anywhere, the FBI already had them under investigation, or they were previously a CIA asset, or they were a military black ops asset. They know who these people are. So, look.
Well, no, Thomas, it's not that way because the statistics show that those shootings actually didn't take place. So then the ones that did take place, I'm leaning towards the FBI sets these false flag operations up. So the people you want to keep out of your schools are the FBI.
Well, that's where I was going. I was trying to make a joke. 280 reported shootings in schools, only 11 of them did NPR were they able to confirm.
I mean, when NPR reports that, you know that the statistics have got to be pretty bad.
And I would suggest that out of those 11, all of them were well known about by the FBI ahead of time. And in some cases, at least 8 of the cases we could go through, they had a lot of forewarning. They usually had the shooter in custody. And in many cases, they had released them saying there was no danger. So what are we talking about here? Homeschooling has gone up huge. So the people staying at home, if you homeschool your child, guess what? You're going to have the geniuses of the future. Plus, your child isn't going to get into a compromised situation by a school that for some reason can't secure itself. You have to ask, who are those principals that can't secure their school? There was no shooting in any school that I was ever the principal of. You want to know why? Because I had security.
Well,
with guns.
Okay, well, this is all very well and good, but let's move on.
Well, wait a second. The people at home, here's the problem. All of you at home working on the internet, Unless President Trump takes it over as a public utility, you are being controlled. And if we go back to net neutrality, you're being controlled by the tech monsters in Silicon Valley, the giant dragons that are eating everyone. And DARPA and In-Q-Tel and Highlands Forum that created the internet as a weaponized psyops tool that was supposed to be used on our enemies. But then when it was so popular, it was used here in America.
No, I disagree. I think they always weaponized it against the American people. They just let us think that it was a friendly place to be. All along, with James P. Chandler's plans with the IBM Eclipse Foundation, this was to be weaponized against us. We just figured it out sooner than they could crash it on us.
What I mean is, when they opened it up to international exchange in the internet and changed it from DARPANet to internet, and Sir Timothy Berners-Lee's in the fake CIA, in the rogue CIA headquarters in CERN in Switzerland, when he gave out the ability to have individual websites to people on the internet, they made it look like his one invention did that. That is a lie. No, the internet had to be prepared for that, and the routers had to have been created, and they were created by Cisco Systems, which was basically a monopoly of the Department of Defense. So anyway, what I'm getting at is everyone is on the internet at home working. Please beware that you could go through a giant disruptor factor, because there's going to be a hiccup. You can see the hiccup is coming. The hiccup's not going to be in the stock market, because we see that even when the tech companies have multi-billion-dollar lawsuits brought against them, what happens? Nothing. Their stock goes up. But if Trump says the word antitrust to Amazon, he loses $18 billion the next day.
He being Jeff Bezos.
Yes. And Trump has now said in a private conversation off the record the word antitrust. And I said, the minute that he says RICO or antitrust, it's all over for the Silicon Valley cardboard cutout dragon kings. Because why? They aren't who they say they are. They don't write code. They aren't smart. Look at Zuckerberg.
They are. This is an information war, and they are the enemy. Okay, next tweet. Too long-running Obama-era investigations of two very popular Republican congressmen were brought to a well-publicized charge just ahead of the midterms by the Jeff Sessions Justice Department. Two easy wins now in doubt because there's not enough time.
This is Jeff Sessions' October surprise, but he's as stupid as Comey, and so he's doing it too early, and it's going to have no power because Trump has now called him out, and basically he needs to resign from what he just did. He took Duncan Hunter from California, a Republican House representative, and Chris Collins from New York. Okay, one of them, Hunter, he and his wife, $275,000 they misused during their campaign. Hello, there's almost no one in Congress or the Senate who don't misuse their election campaign funds. What about Hillary Clinton's $84 million from Maine? What about the $400 million from the rest of the states? Where's that investigation, Mr. Sessions? You have now clearly defined yourself as an enemy of the far, far, far left.
An enemy of the left.
I'm sorry.
He's their friend.
Sorry.
He's an enemy of everyone in America.
He's of the left. Yes. He has gone so far left. Heinrich Himmler shivers in his boots when he looks at what Jeff Sessions is doing, if he were still alive. Why? Because there's nothing worse than what he just did. He broke the golden rule of revealing a politically motivated investigation, which he said he's not going to be part of any political motivation or any manipulation by Trump. No. What you just did was nothing but political. And it tried to take two more people out of the Congress. You are working so hard. You're probably just desperate, Mr. Sessions, that you can't take some senators that support Trump out. Because what you need, and that's what they're going to work on, is removing senators, because they know that they have to get past the House and the Senate for impeachment, and then it will go to where? The Supreme Court.
Where they got their guy Kavanaugh just ready for them.
There will be no crime. We've already had the Mueller investigation, probably $20 million in all these months. Nothing. They've already come out. Rat Rodenstein has already said, no collusion, no corruption, no obstruction of justice. Mr. President, you're not even being investigated. Okay? That's what they said. You're not even a person of interest in this case. But we're going to make sure that we let the mainstream media insist through ISIS, through the prompters that they read, and through ISIS management and Avid, which is now going to be attacked just today, the first glimmers of what we said is going to happen. Lawsuits against these companies because all these mainstream media companies, because they're lying, they're all in league. None of them check any sources. They simply read the prompter, and we told you where the prompter goes back to and who filters it. That's all provable.
When you say lawsuits, who do you envision would be bringing lawsuits against Avid or ISIS leader management?
The SEC.
Okay.
Securities and Exchange Commission. It's already happened. And I told everybody this is going to happen. And on the other end of it...
Would that be a lawsuit, or would it be a complaint?
No, this is a massive lawsuit against them because it's going to end up being an antitrust lawsuit.
But you've got people in that organization that are senior executive service operatives. How is that going to actually work when they are doing everything they can to obstruct the movement towards truth?
As we pointed out, Mike Mulvaney is restructuring the entire federal government. The SEC is on the run. Senior executive service members of all branches of the federal government and agencies are on the run. They're getting the hell out. They're going to be given merit tests. I say everybody at McCain's funeral should be given a merit test to see if they are even worthy of being someone representing us.
I'm just
in
surprised
Congress. They won't pass. None of them will pass. They're idiots. They can't even get a job, okay? And Romney gets elected because he rigs the election machines and he's got money. He went out to every single county in his old car and, I say, paid them cash. This is the kind of people who were sitting there at the globalists gloating over McCain's body that's probably been on ice for weeks, but they didn't. They had to get past the deadline. So this is how much they will cheat, that they would even defile someone at their death, and McCain would even order which presidents are allowed to speak and which aren't. This shows you how much he is in charge, okay?
This tweet continues. Good job, Jeff. The Democrats, none of whom voted for Jeff Sessions, must love him now. Same thing with Lion James Comey. The Dems all hated him, wanted him out, thought he was disgusting until I fired him. Immediately, he became a wonderful man, a saint-like figure, in fact, really sick.
Yeah, this is a really great tweet because there's just so much here. So let's go back for a second. Jeff Sessions went after 2 Republican congressmen. He allowed those to go forward. He allowed a whistleblower to get convicted. And he allowed, he allowed James Wolfe to leak every top secret thing he ever knew from the Senate Intelligence Committee to his girlfriend, Alvy Watkinson, yet nothing's happened. Oh, wait, Andrew McCabe, no, that's right, Andrew McCabe, kind of on hold. Oh, Bruce Orr, he's going down after what he testified. Oh, no, that's right, no indictments on Bruce Orr. No. Oh, Daniel Jones and all his cheating, and then $50 million to continue Fusion's opposition research against Trump to this very day and help Robert Mueller. Oh, no, nothing's going down, even though Russians, Oleg Deripaska, and the globalist of all globalists, George Soros, gave that money. Oh, Imran Awan, he gets complete immunity for his entire espionage. Oh, that's right. All of Hillary's people, they all got immunity. Hillary, well, they never even questioned her. She wasn't even a person of interest in that, so she didn't even need immunity. How about Nellie Orr? Nothing wrong there, is there? Oh, what about Peter Strzok, who they say was fired from the FBI but still works for the CIA? Nothing wrong there, is there, Jeff? Jeff, you feckless, disgusting Benedict Arnold. Jeff, are you home? How about Glenn Simpson? How about Christopher Steele? How about the fact that 2 different committees have demanded that you start an investigation of Christopher Steele because there's already 2 cases going on in America where he's being sued and losing? Bad, but you won't investigate him. You, sir, are a treasonous, seditious enemy of America. I just want to say a little bit more about the second tweet. That James Comey, he's out there talking about higher morality right now, isn't he? Isn't that amazing that the more corrupt you become, the more you start to spout ancient writers about morality and about the way that you are moral? Here's who here's who he is. Do not forget that he was the person that allowed all these crimes to go forward. With Orr to work with Steele, Strzok to work with Page, Orr to work with Fusion, All of them, hundreds and hundreds of things he allowed to go forward, which was a complete weaponization of the Obama federal administration. It's all the top dogs. Certainly every single executive service member was working overtime. And that's what we see with Bruce Orr. He got a little bit too zealous. And he got so zealous that he says, hey, honey, look, Fusion GPS, they need somebody over there. And since you are already as corrupt as can be, why don't you go over there and then pillow talk, and then we'll pillow talk, and I'll pillow talk with Christopher Steele, my good buddy, who I met with 80 times during all of this. So what's happening with him? Nothing. Closed door investigation, Bruce Orr, nothing happening to him. Jeff Sessions, did you listen? Did you even listen in? Did anybody report to you the crimes that Bruce Orr just told the investigators in Capitol Hill? Are you paying any attention? Why was immunity given to all these people? And you can't look in the direction of anybody who committed a crime. And if you did, what you do is you give them immunity. That is Jeff Sessions. Don't forget, he is the ultimate person to decide all of these things. It isn't on Rat Rodenstein. He's a complete idiot. He said he didn't even sign the FISA court application. I'll read it.
Yeah, but
he just signed it.
Who's the senior executive service operative that's running the DOJ? Wouldn't that be Rat Rodenstein?
Well, that would be
Or Bruce Orr?
Bruce is the Council of 500, and that's the group that runs it ultimately. But they take their orders directly right now from Obama in his bunker, and probably Valerie Jarrett, and probably Eric Holder, who's now been who'd been folded into this mix of evil called OFA, which has 33,000 people on the streets spreading lies, dissent, and basically signing people up for Black Lives Matter and Antifa and every single violent supported non-government organization supported by George Soros, Open Foundation and Tides Foundation, Open Borders. This is evil, what we are dealing with here.
Well, it is evil. And it's becoming more and more apparent that what we're looking at is beyond politics. This is good versus evil. For example, the rumors that circulate about what was found on the laptop that the New York police are holding that was Hillary and Huma in this. And of course, there's nothing on the internet. You can't find anything, but you can certainly hear what these may be. Once these arise and things like this arise, people are just going to see what this is. This is just... we are facing off evil.
I was going to make a list of James Comey's crimes that he must be given immunity for, because we've seen him in public. Every one of those crimes below him, he approved of. So if we take all of the crimes from the politicalization of the FBI and the DOJ, he was in on all of it, and including the small group and the Crossfire Hurricane came to him. It all came down to Comey. How many crimes does he have to commit? Or is he just given blanket immunity for anything? Well, if you look at it closely, folks, you'll see that he was part of stealing trillions of dollars through Lockheed Martin, hundreds of billions of dollars through a bank, HSBC, where also Mueller worked. Don't get me started.
Well, this is why the midterms are so important, because we have to give Trump the full support that he needs to get some of these actions done. I'd like to move to the next one. I see that John Kerry, the father of the now terminated Iran deal, is thinking of running for president. I should only be so lucky. Although the field is currently assembling, looks really good for me. Now, before you start, they keep coming out. It was Kamala Harris, and it was Deval Patrick, and it's all these people, these bottom-of-the-barrel people that they're trying to get to run against POTUS. And what I really see, Thomas, is an extinction-level event for the Democrat Party. They have no ideas. They don't have the money they used to. They certainly don't have any viable candidates. What is going to happen to the Democrat Party?
Well, they only have one candidate, and that's George Soros. And so that's who he's fighting against. All these other people are just a joke. I'll tell you who the ticket's going to be, because we already told everybody a long time ago who their ticket's going to be.
Okay, well, now that you stated that, you have to at least tee it up.
This is a setup. So what I want to first say is, what is he talking about with John Kerry? John Kerry's corruption just with the Iran deal would go down. How about his son, Christopher Hines, who got literally billions from China? Between two deals in Ukraine and China, billions. Okay? They got better deals. Hunter Biden, well, first Joe and John got awards, but Joe got the highest award you can get in Ukraine, which is a fascist country where we spent $4.9 billion putting those fascists into power twice, where lots and lots of people have died, and then in the republics that have gone independent who didn't want to be part of that, Donetsk and Luhansk, however you pronounce them, that's still fighting. People are dying. Thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you, John Kerry. Now, John Kerry did the Iran deal. We know that he was paid under the table because their foreign minister said he was. And the foreign minister thanked John Kerry for allowing 2,500 Iranian spies to be allowed to come into this country, just like John Brennan allowed 12 of the 19 Saudi Arabians. He personally signed their expedited visas who were responsible, according to some, of 9/11, the official story. John Brennan. Okay? John Kerry. He is an Iranian collaborator. We already know that. We don't even know how many billions he gave. We know there was $1.7 billion in cash in whatever denomination they wanted, and that was so that there couldn't be U.S. Treasury actions taken later, for instance, and so on and so forth, because really that money was all illegal. And to pay them the interest of money that we held for them for that time, no, there's no interest on that money, Barack Obama. You can't take what was $400 million and turn it into $1.7 billion and then give another $20 billion on top of it. At least, some say $40 billion. So what is going on here? Self-enrichment, plain and simple. That's why Obama has 5 houses. He's never in any of them. His real house, we all know where his real house is. It's his secret bunker. He even used U.S. taxpayer dollars to secure it and buy it, y'all. So what we have here is corruption at the highest level that has become so institutionalized that it's just disgusting. Here is who we say, and our pick, the conclave's pick, okay?
For the Democrat slate for 2020.
Can I get a drum roll? Patrick Duval, and
Duval Patrick,
and he'll run Kamala Harris as his vice president, and they'll announce that early on.
Oh, Duval Patrick is so corrupt.
We already revealed it.
We've already got the dirt
when we
on
figured
him.
this out.
Oh yeah,
we revealed it.
Yeah.
We haven't yet hammered
Well,
Kamala Harris.
Mueller.
Why?
I mean, Mueller has been grooming Duval for quite some time.
Oh, he is the next in line, and so just like Michael Horowitz is the next in line, Kamala Harris, we're not going to bash yet because we don't want to scare her. She's bashing herself. She was the loudest, most pathetic voice who turned the Kavanaugh hearings into
a zoo,
a complete, pathetic, democratic, socialist, fascist zoo. And she is an idiot, and she's been set up to replace, she's part of the Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, Maxine Waters triumvirate. She's being prepared to replace them completely.
Well, when we get there, we'll have plenty to say about the folks that are going to be running on the Democrat ticket. Next tweet, according to the failing New York Times, the FBI started a major effort to flip Putin loyalists in 2014 to 16. It wasn't about Trump. It wasn't even close to a candidate yet. Rigged witch hunt.
This takes a bit of explaining. As a matter of fact, this one and another one, they literally had to call the White House to say, whoa, we don't know. What are you talking about? We're not sure what you're talking about, Mr. President. Can you please illuminate it? He didn't. We're going to illuminate it. Oleg Deripaska, let's be clear about this. He is as Putin can get. He wasn't allowed in this country until he made friends with who? Hillary Clinton. And Adam Waldman, his lawyer, is very, very, very best good friends with Daniel Jones, who was Dianne Feinstein's Senate Intelligence Committee security staffer. Does this ring a bell? He got $50 million with his new company. He leaves her working under her, and gets $50 million from Oleg Deripaska, George Soros, and a bunch of other people. The reason they didn't name them is because they're all Russian oligarchs. And who got them connected? That would be Henry Kerner. That would be John McCain's right-hand man, his hammer man. And he's the one who connected them all. He's the one who got the whole thing stirred up so that the Senate Intelligence Committee and Mark Warner and Richard Burr stepped back and let Mark Warner, be the one to commit the crimes. Literally have communications through Bruce Orr in this back channel illegal connection to Russia, because remember, Brennan went to Russia before all of this to set this up. And it was John McCain, because John McCain's always been working the Russians. He thought he was a Russian. He thought he was the ultimate spy, and that he was the ultimate Russian spy. And he tried to infiltrate we had 5 groups that we paid in Syria. John McCain, all of them. We have pictures of this. John McCain promised them all money. John McCain is basically one of the major architects of the Civil War.
He's a was. He's not an is.
Yeah, he's a was. And rest in peace, no. Good riddance. He is the reason so many people have died in Syria. There's never been a war that John McCain didn't love and support, because why? He leads the military-industrial complex. So, what is really happening? Putin loyalists are people that John McCain was already using and Comey was using. All of the assets of the CIA, of the State Department, of the Justice Department, of particularly the FBI Counterintelligence Department and the CIA Black Ops, which Peter Strzok still works for. He's still a manager, a high-level regional manager for the CIA, because he is the worst of Black Ops ever. And his dad was in Iran. And the whole Iran scandal and the whole thing that went down there with the October surprise with Jimmy Carter, that was Peter Strzok's dad. Okay? Peter Strzok is Peter Strzok Jr. So, what we have here is crime families and their henchmen. And their henchmen are families. These are like mafia families. That's what we're dealing with here. So when we say Oleg Deripaska, remember, he was in a war with Bill Browder. Who's Bill Browder? An American who, through manipulation of the Vulcans, that's the Bushites, who knocked down the USSR and then knocked down Russia and then has continued to knock down every ex-USSR satellite since then and continues to this very day. These people are very mad at us. So Bill Browder went in, took advantage of them with his Hermitage, let's call it a trick money fund, and got $1.5 billion just like that. Made Putin mad. So America said, the SEC, not SEC, someone went to him, a federal agent, I forget, and said, pay your taxes. And he said, no, I'll become a British citizen. The Britons went to him, and they don't care, because the Brits are in bed with the Russians like you can't even imagine. So then Putin said, you're not stealing $1.5 billion and taking it out of my country. You're not paying taxes on it, so I'm going after you. So Bill Browder manipulated Hillary Clinton and John McCain, who spoke for the Magnitsky Act, to go against Russia, to put fake sanctions on Russia over nonsense that Bill Browder, this thief, non-tax-paying thief, created in our own Congress. He came and demanded to testify before Congress and got to. Wow, whoa, what kind of power is that, Bill Browder? Bill Browder is as corrupt as anybody can possibly be. Oleg Deripaska hates him. Oleg doesn't care about the Democrats, the Republicans. He just wants Bill Browder taken down. So he's been on both sides. And as I said earlier, John McCain met with Oleg Deripaska during the election before Eric Prince met with him. But John McCain didn't get called before the special counsel because he has immunity, because he's leads. Basically, we have a Department of Defense and then we have a Department of War. John McCain was the head of the Department of War. He fomented war through rogue CIA, fomented it through the CIA, fomented it through all these black ops, counterintelligence. He literally, when they needed to have Russians, this is amazing, when the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, knew that Uranium One was going to take Hillary down, she wouldn't get elected, they had to create a Russian narrative they can pin on whoever the Republican candidate was going to be. So it started even before they knew it was Trump, but they thought it might be likely him. And they'd been going after Trump for years and never could. So that happened on December 14th and 15th of 2015. In January, immediately, 2 weeks later, John McCain got involved with them, suggested through them and their group, I've named all of them before, the Democratic National Committee, corrupt people, Alexia Chalupa particularly, but there's other ones now that they've had the names that have come out through all these investigations. But it was John McCain who said, don't worry, I will give you an infallible list of Russian spies that we have as counter agents here that we've implanted. That would include Carter Page, Felix Sater, Sergei Milian, Parachenko, and many others. And then he said, and my best person here, you need to go get Nellie Orr, because she's our best Russian expert working for the FBI and the open source, which she can now do this research for you like crazy. It's like she'll live in the mind of Putin. In the dossier that John McCain delivered to the public, remember, John McCain took that dossier and had a press release on it after he had hand-walked it to the head of the FBI. Then he came out and told everybody. He didn't read it, then he told you what was in it, and he was the biggest of all the propaganda mongers because he did it right as an October surprise. So, John McCain should not be lauded. He should be stoned.
Well, he shouldn't be buried among heroes either. I hope when all this is over, that casket is lifted up and put in a pauper cemetery somewhere.
You want a good Russian, a spy or otherwise, go to John McCain, and that's what happened.
Now, the next one, we're going to go over to President Bashir al-Assad of Syria. Must not recklessly attack Idlib province. The Russians and Iranians would be making a grave humanitarian mistake to take part in this potential human tragedy. Hundreds of thousands of people would be killed. Don't let that happen.
That's a John McCain thing. He did that. Idlib isn't supposed to be bombed because that's where they steal the oil. And it's the headquarters of one of the major groups that was funded by America, and that is who John went to visit. And he promised them more heavy armor. He promised them planes. He promised them missiles. And then he got caught. And then what happened? Trump came to power and he took away that $1 billion that John McCain was helping spend. $1 billion a year on ISIS, al-Nusra, 5 different organizations. 5 different organizations. He was the man who was there. He's also met with all these corrupt people on both sides, Turkey, Syria, so on and so forth. Another gas attack is being set up. Why is Trump warning about this? Because Trump can't do anything more when these political things happen, because this is the British and the French setting this up again. Remember what happened last time and the time before. They set him up, he dropped a bunch of bombs just to show that he would. Set him up again, he said, I ain't dropping any bombs until Britain and France drop equal or more bombs, because that's where we got the info. That's where we got the fake intel. We can't tell the world that the Five Eyes people that are supposed to be our friends are our enemies. So Trump can't come out and say that. He can't come out and say that supposedly...
Why can't he?
No, can't do that yet. You can't take down them because they are the ones revealing what's really going on.
You have to wait till after the midterms where you've got a solid force in Congress?
You just here's how crazy it is, Betsy. I am so glad you asked that question. I just read multiple articles where they said the Five Eyes group has said that they demand to have the crypto backdoor keys
yes.
into everything. Okay, there is no such thing as the Five Eyes group.
I saw this article. This is why I sent it to you. I said, this article makes no sense at all. It's like they're trying to confuse people out there as to what Five Eyes is. Go tell us more.
Five Eyes is nothing more than NSA sharing information, raw data, with 4 other countries that are all evil British Queen Privy Council run countries. Of course, the United Kingdom and all of its Commonwealth, so God only knows how many offshore banks are actually spying on us and legally doing it through the Five Eyes. Let's remember Robert Hannigan, the head of their General Communications headquarters, came and behind General Rogers, the head of NSA, went into Fort Meade, Maryland, his most sacred fort, and used that as a British Five Eyes spy to spy on Trump Towers. Okay, that is what is going on here. What they're trying to say is, they want to have the backdoor keys for the Chinese phones. Okay, let me decode that for you. There's no such group as the Five Eyes group. No such thing. It's a lie. And since Trump has come to power, there sure is no such thing as the Five Eyes group.
Well, we're formally speaking. People might call it that, but it's not a formal organization.
It's a total informal, not even agreement, not even on paper.
Okay.
It is complete nonsense. We're supposed to trust Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Britain,
and
all of the British
Queen.
Commonwealth, 54 countries.
Are you kidding? It all goes back to the Queen. We've already demonstrated without a doubt that it's the Queen and the Privy Council that were trying to overthrow the United States government and trying to overthrow Trump.
George Soros was working with Sir Lord
Malloch Brown
and Jeffrey Patty and Strategic Communications Laboratories, exactly as they did in Brexit, to affect our election, and they almost did. They almost did. They almost won, but Trump had a landslide. Now, it's still going on. It's even amped up. Someone just asked me again to give out the article how George Soros is paying the Atlantic Council. We don't even know how much, probably $1.5 billion by best estimates, to come in and to take over Facebook and to even do more than they did before. And he was proud to say he was doing this, and the Atlantic Council was proud, and they had meetings, and they were waving their flags. Okay? In other words, free speech on Facebook, that's gone. And then that happened on Google with the Digital News Initiative. Same thing. That's why Eric Schmidt's still out of the country. He can't be called before Congress. Now can he? And the other fake cardboard cutout Silicon Valley dragon monsters, when they're called before Congress, they demonstrate that they're idiots, just like Rat Rodenstein. When he was called before Congress, I didn't sign that document. They did the work on it. Why would I call their trust into question by me not signing it after they did the work on it?
It shows us the stupidity of the congressmen and women who are asking the questions. Are they stupid? Do they not care? Do they not do their research or homework to ask probing questions? Or are they just part of the whole kabuki theater that we're seeing?
Kabuki.
Because we have given a ton of download information on Sheryl Sandberg. Now, I'm going to be waiting and seeing what kind of questions these politicians ask. And if I see a bunch of vanilla questions...
For gas bombings in Syria. Okay? The first two have been proven to have happened, and that they were everything that opposite of what the administration was saying. Then Trump's two happened. And then what has now been found out, the first one that he bombed was found out to be exactly what he thought it was, though everybody said it was fake. The very UN, multiple agencies went in and found, said, no, this is absolutely real. It was dropped from planes. It wasn't barrel bombs. It wasn't dropped from helicopters. This was blah, blah, blah. Now, did they say who did it? No. Could it have been Israel itself? Oh, yeah, sure. But let's look at what's going on there right now. Trump is getting you ready for the fact that they are going to use Syria as another surprise on him. This is for the midterms. This is to test him again. They're going to do a fake attack. If it's on Idlib, that starts the war again. That completely destabilizes every peace effort that has happened there. John McCain would be so happy if he were still alive. And so Trump is going to have to respond to what he's being told by Mattis and the military. Now, the military believes in Five Eyes. That's just a given. So if it comes from Five Eyes, it isn't questioned.
Well, we have a lot of military people that listen to our show. Certainly they are not that naive.
It doesn't matter because we've been told by people in every agency practically that the SES above them are like the Nazis and they'll fire them and all of their years of work gone just like that. Can the SES be fired? No. You can't stand up against them. Can you whistleblow? Well, they'll know exactly where it came from and then they'll just put pressure on that and then they'll just restructure the whole section that you were in or whatever. They will mess with your life. You do not mess with the SES. These are the evil Nazi bosses. These are literally... These people are SS, drop the E, Senior Executive Service, SS, that's who they are. They are only out for themselves. And if anyone tries to tell you that it is nothing but a pay grade, they are liars, obfuscators, and they are probably working directly for SES because that is the lie. Just go and look at the evidence we presented. It is irrefutable evidence and no one will refute it because they don't want to answer any questions about it because there's no answers for these questions except, yes, there is a shadow government, and SES, we are it. Well, who gives you your orders? I really don't know. But I know that our union tells me what to do, and they tell me that I don't need to know what I'm doing, so they move me around every 4 months to a new job.
It's so decompartmentalized. They don't even know their own structure of the organization. But can we get to this last one?
He wants to de-escalate in Syria, but folks, get ready. He's not going to de-escalate in Syria if he has to face this. As a matter of fact, probably if this happens now, we may see an offensive that would be very extreme to end this. In other words, this is going to call the game out. This is what he's been doing in D.C. So, what happened in Syria before? He was right. They called him wrong. It took a year for them to prove that he was right with the first gas attack. And with the other attacks and allowing Israel to attack them, right now, alert, the money that John Kerry personally delivered to Iran through Obama, fake money that we didn't owe them. If I would explain that, you wouldn't even believe it. The fake money that we never owed them, that Obama turned into $1.7 billion and then turned into $40 billion. What did they do with it? They spent it on missiles that they bought from China and Russia. Everybody knows this. First thing they did with that money. And where did those missiles go? They went to Yemen, and now we've blown them up because Yemen was using them to bomb Saudi Arabia. They went to all kinds of other countries, but they principally went to Iran, and then they went to Iraq, and then they went to now Syria. There are so many missiles that Israel is letting the opposition side put out military satellite pictures that show these missiles, tons of missiles. Remember when they launched 35 missiles from Iran? Iranian missiles from Syria? Didn't they get the message? It's going to happen again, folks. Israel is going to blow up every one of those missiles. And this fake gas attack will probably or could be used as part of the cover for that.
Final tweet. NBC fake news, which is under intense scrutiny over their killing the Harvey Weinstein story, is now fumbling around making excuses for their probably highly unethical conduct. I have long criticized NBC and their journalistic standards, worse than even CNN. Look at their license.
Eric Schneiderman was leading this. He got taken out because of his sexual corruption, and he's basically part of this RICO. Eric Schneiderman was running the sex RICO section of Weinstein's sexual empire, okay? This is RICO. This is hundreds of people. These are thousands of people are involved in this. And what happens? Eric Schneiderman gets taken out for the very crime. And then what happens? What's his name? Is Governor Cuomo? Cuomo steps in as the governor, unprecedentedly in history, and moves this most obvious case of guilt into oblivion land. And he can assign these cases only under extreme special conditions. But he's done it repeatedly and repeatedly. And Robert Mueller has done it for Tony Podesta and John Podesta, moving it to the southern district of New York. And so New York, anything in New York, you have to look for the corruption to begin with. And so this is corrupt beyond the corrupt.
But I like what he's saying. He's looking at their license.
He is warning them. We already told everyone this. They have exposed themselves. Well, actually, we exposed them. Avid and ISIS management is all it takes now to take them down. It's the proof of the RICO. It's the proof of the racketeering. It's the proof of antitrust. It's the proof of the monopoly. It's the proof of violating Section 230 of the Broadcasting Decency Act, which is now being quoted by other people. Now, other people quoted it before us, but I don't know that. When we wrote about it, I couldn't find a single other person referencing it. Now they even reference Section 230. It can take them down. This is when they agree to lie. And if one company, it's hard to say that one company agrees to lie, but if all the mainstream media are reading the same prompters and they didn't check any of the sources, there's no sources, there's no bylines, all they're doing is reading propaganda, and they know it's a lie because they've seen the evidence that shows it's a lie, then it's pretty easy to go after those companies and basically take all of them down at once. And unfortunately for them, their wealth would probably be absorbed because this would be a national emergency. Because when you broadcast lies, you affect the national economy. And that's what they're going after them for. That's why it's the SEC. It's economic warfare. We tell you this all the time. Who cares about the rest? It's economic warfare that will take these people down. That's all they're interested in is money. Well, power too, but they want the money first. So Trump is already doing exactly what we told you he was doing, and he's doing it behind the scenes, and you're seeing it slowly come to the surface. And then what do you see? All of a sudden, hundreds of indictments for a little audit that you never knew was going on because it was an inspector general inspection that rode along with the auditor this time and found $710 million that they were able to reclaim of corruption in most agencies. That's the tip of the iceberg. Trump is doing his job, but if you do not pay attention and if you listen to the loudest screaming voices like at the McCain funeral trying to drown out the testimony of Bruce Orr, which they can't leak it was behind closed doors, but the content they can talk about which basically says Bruce Orr says Sally Yates, and everyone knew about this. Everyone knew. He's not going down. We've been waiting for the stool pigeon. He was the stool pigeon. If that investigation does its job, there will be indictments, forced indictments. And those forced indictments, if they cannot be forced through the DOJ, they can be forced through the U.S. Marshal Office. And that's how Trump is doing all of this. He's working behind the scenes economically through sanctions, through indictments, through inspector general investigations that are not corrupt, which is practically never has been seen in history before, through audits, through restructuring, through making merit pay for SES members, making everybody dealing with high up in the echelon has to go through a new security clearance. It's military. Half or more of the SES won't pass. They aren't going to take the salary limitations. Remember, they get bonuses every year, and now Trump is freezing them, and I guarantee you he's freezing SES too. And he is going to lean against them until they realize that they need to get out. And this old British system of setting up the old boys clubs and committees of career politicians that basically are given titles like these people are, lawyer titles usually, or big titles and appointments. What happens? They think they have the right as a judge to do insider trading, and that's okay. Because why? They're a judge. Once they've been appointed a judge, that's it. These appointees, both in the SES and the justice system, even in the military, because remember, SES is all systems, all federal systems. Not a single system is not subject to the SES, and they are a military organization, paramilitary. Remember that. This is the SS of America, folks. He's working against them. And I'm so glad that here and there, for instance, we just had a lovely chat with, can I say their names? John, my good buddy John. And it's showing me that people are awake out there. And they're telling us things that we don't know that we have to investigate to say, holy moly, it's even more amazing than we imagined, because there are so many thousands of people who are out there digging for the truth. Or as I just read from someone who makes QAnon look silly, his name is Jacob Q. I don't know if he wants me to tell his last name, but I want to become his good friend, because what he said was so beautiful. He did this beautiful expose on the Federal Bridge Certification Authority Network,
which that's our next on our target list. So people start paying attention to this, because this is where the rat lines are.
Oh my gosh,
they're nasty rat lines.
Everything we revealed about Richard C. Walker's Internet of Things patent, or what is literally called in the patent, the aggressive remote control of everything, it's already happened. And for about a year, I tried to investigate this on my own, and I couldn't get anywhere with it. I was told this was the final, ultimate end of where the corrupt cartel goes. Couldn't figure it out. And so we figured out a little bit, and then this guy comes along, and he writes the following. I love a truth omelet, especially if it comes with a side of verification.